Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and earlier this year we've spent a lot of time with the BMW X1 and X2 M35i. And this new Mini Countryman JCW shares a lot under the skin with those M35is. And thanks to our friends at Mini Milwaukee, we're going to walk through this thing and show you the best and the rest. Let's get into it. And the first thing we'll talk about is the fact that this thing isn't so mini anymore. Now, this is their SUV, and it's the biggest Mini that there's ever minied. It's about 5 inches longer than the previous generation. It's about 4 inches taller than the previous generation. It's 140 more pounds at about 3,800 pounds. So this is the biggest and most substantial Mini there is. But if you're worried that the Mini has gotten too big, it's still about the size of a Subaru Crosstrek. So it's still kind of in that subcompact, maybe breaching into compact space, especially when we check out the rear seats, which we'll do later. But if you're worried about the mininess, there's still plenty of character here to go along with the inflated size. And one thing worth pointing out is, if you do spend enough time in here, there's a lot of BMW in here, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of BMW switchgear for things like your window controls, your trunk release, like a lot. And normally I wouldn't really complain about trickle down from the upmarket version of the brand, but in something with the character and the kind of like bespoke experience and personality that you get from a Mini, I think I'd just like to see a couple more unique touches, or maybe just even a couple less places where I'm like, oh, that's immediately taken from the X1, that's from the X3, you know, stuff like that. Does it really affect the experience? No. And if you've had Minis before, you're probably used to this, but just something that you will notice. But switching gears and talking about all the best things about the new Countryman, it still retains its mininess, which means it's just dripping with buckets of personality and character, especially on the interior here. The interior design does look very classic Mini. You've got black and half cloth, half knot interior with some red detailing, race flags everywhere. The seats are heated, they're not cooled, but I think it's okay. But the door card retains that expensive, almost Scandinavian feeling fabric and works in tandem with the almost gold door handles. On your dash, your head-up display is still on that plexi slab, but that's kind of classic Mini. And you don't have a cluster here, but you do have that circular screen in the middle. Your steering wheel is a 2-spoke, but it has this clever strap with some detailing, and it really does feel kind of special and unique. But every surface and every texture has detailing and some sort of unique quality in this cabin. No one does unique personality like Mini, especially in these interiors and especially at this price point. And then when it comes to the JCW specific bits, it starts under the hood with what I would call the picante or the chili factor. Now the engine itself will sound pretty familiar. It's the B48 from BMW, which means it's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's the same mill that you'd find in an X1 and an X2. Here it makes 312 horsepower, that's up 11 from last year, and it makes 295 pound-feet of torque, which interestingly is down 36 pound-feet from last year. But 0 to 60 is still good with all four and that DCT for about 5-ish seconds. And your fuel economy is still around that mid-20s, 26 mpg combined. So it's slightly less efficient than last year, but it still sounds plenty raucous and plenty fun to whip around. But then when we start to talk about the driving experience, now this is the most powerful Mini ever. And the dual clutch here is sharp when you're really on it. It does feel, even for its new inflated size, pretty sharp, nimble, and athletic, I would say. You've got all four all-wheel drive as standard. You've got a very raucous sound coming out of those quad tips out back. Braking is very good. You've got a boost paddle like you would on a BMW, so you've got basically unfettered access to all the power immediately. The ride is, I don't know, maybe a little harsh, but this is the JCW. This is the picante one, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. And when it comes to styling, the new enlarged size really stands out for the new Mini, but it does still look pretty cool and definitely identifiable as a Countryman and as a Mini. You've got loads of character. I do kind of miss the circular running lights, but the new geometric design is very cool. You've got a new JCW grill badge and loads of detailing in your front grille and onto your front fender and bumper and all sorts of places. This is of course in black, and you've got the red hood details that give it a little bit more spicy personality. And it's got an aggressive hood bulge, almost like an M car. And the JCWs also get very cool 20-inch wheels, and they're wrapped in 245 summer tires, and they have loads of grip. And peeking out underneath are some red brake calipers. And you can even get red wing mirrors and a red roof, but here we've gone for a more subtle incognito black on black spec. And down below, the door handles are recognizably BMW, but on your C-pillar, you do have a John Cooper Works Easter egg with the All 4 designation. And the rear design is incredibly clean with a multi-diode taillight that shows in the Union Jack shape. And to finish it off, you've got quad tips, and they sound pretty cool too, especially on shift. And this next point is something I talk about in a lot of new crossovers and SUVs that come to market, and it's the fact that if it doesn't come with a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, I kind of think it should. But that being said, you'd think this would be on the con side of the list, but they have confirmed that a full EV version of the Countryman is coming for this new generation, and a plug-in hybrid is coming. So it's coming, it's just not here yet. And then touching on cargo practicality, now like I said, this is the biggest Mini that's ever minied. You've got a power trunk, close and lock, and your space is huge. 26 cubic feet with the rear seats up, 56 with the rear seats down. That's only 1 cubic feet less, or 1 cubic foot less, I should say, respectively, from a BMW X1, a proper SUV. So this thing doesn't miss in terms of daily practicality and utility. And when it comes to the rear seats, just as you'd imagine from the increase in size, this is the most spacious Mini ever. Even at 6'1", sitting behind myself, I have plenty of knee room and plenty of headroom. The seats back here recline. You've got great leather and contrast stitching and perforations with a little bit of JCW checkered flag detailing throughout. It's very cool. You've got vents, you've got chargers, you've got pretty much everything that you could want. If I'm going to nitpick, I guess you don't have heated rear seats and you don't have window shades, but you've got a great pano roof bringing in plenty of light, and it's comfortable, even for 6-footers. So good job, Countryman. And when it comes to the technology suite, the BMW partnership is definitely welcome because it means you don't have to make any sacrifices and you get everything. Starting with your head-up display, it is that plexi slab, but I do kind of like it. It's kind of that characteristic Mini thing. We talked about you don't have a digital cluster, you don't have any cluster of any kind. I'm not sure why they do this, but then that brings you over to your center screen, which is, of course, a circle. Name another car brand that's doing circular infotainment screens. It is running new software and a new skin, and it works really well. Wireless Apple CarPlay, you've got awesome ambient lighting, you've got a 360 camera, you've got a wireless charger, and you even have a voice assistant dog named Spike. And you can even download games in here. That'll probably be more relevant when you get into the EV one. But next to your engine start, you've got this tab that says experiences, and the drive modes or experience modes are pretty interesting. And you've also got a very good driver assist suite that it kind of inherits from BMW. It's their Drive Pilot Pro, and it's a level 2 system, and it works brilliantly. From a technology and daily livability perspective, you're not making any compromises. I would like to see a cluster, but you do have a head-up display, so really, it's giving you everything that you could want. And then when we get to price, again, I'm gonna kind of compare it to the BMW X1 and X2, and inherently it's going to be cheaper, but I really don't think you're making compromises because there's a lot of shared interior quality, material, and switchgear, which means you're really kind of getting a bargain. Now, the new Countryman itself starts at $38,900, and the JCW, the full Picante version, starts at $46,900. Whereas you can get into a BMW X1 M35, which would be comparable to this, for another $3,000 starting at $50K. So here you're basically getting fundamentally the same car, but with buckets more personality for thousands of dollars less. I think that's a good time to go for a drive. Okay, one of my favorite things is just the startup. It's just cool, this little flick here, and then this tab. This is what I love about Mini, they're just different. They're just a little bit different. Yes, I'm on reserve fuel, because lightweight and sports car. But yeah, these little I mean, the previous Minis all had toggles, so they've kind of reintroduced the toggle, but in like a cleaned up, minimalized way. And I just think it's cool, you know? And then this dash, I'm really a sucker for like an upscale like canvas or like cloth. So a lot of the stuff that Volvo does, some of the stuff that Mazda does, this feels very upscale to me. And I just really like it. I'm gonna go to my experiences tab, flick up from core, go-kart mode. It's just a little bit of like levity. It's just a little bit of not taking itself so seriously, and I love that. That's what I love about Mini the most, is they're a German brand that doesn't feel so stuffy. They're the most personality having German brand. But we'll give it a little bit of power. We won't do a total launch. Here's turbo. A little bit of torque steer. Brakes are excellent. Sound is great. DCT is awesome. A little bit of brup, brup, brup. Snappy. Now it's definitely being synthesized for sure, but it's kind of cool. All right, I'm gonna get out of go-kart mode, but go-kart is sport. Again, just having some fun, because there's something interesting in core mode, which is like your normal. So watch this, and it does it in the head-up display as well. The head-up display basically looks like this, it kind of mirrors that. But I'm gonna come off throttle and watch what happens to this. It turns into a daisy. Like, why? I don't know, but I love it. It's just kind of fun. But driving experience behind the wheel of this thing, it's hard not to feel like you're in something special. The power is pretty good, it's turboed. It doesn't feel incredibly quick. Like, I also have a JCW Clubman this week, which feels more on it, but it should. It's smaller, it's lower, it's, you know, lighter and that sort of thing. But for an SUV, for what the Countryman goes out to accomplish, it's the biggest one, it's the most family oriented, the most practical, competes kind of with an X1 M35i. I would have this, I think. I really liked the like seat belt that you had for the wireless charger in the X1, but aside from that, and like the driving experience is good, but like that's as far as the personality goes in that car, versus in here you have just so much character. And I know I'm abusing these words in this video, but it's just fun. It's just fun. Like, you get in the car, it makes you smile a little bit, it feels so unique. There is a bunch of reused BMW switchgear, but it's wrapped in such a bespoke, interesting package that I think it just works. It handles well. Yeah, visibility is pretty good. You've got fairly vertical glass here. The ride is okay. I shouldn't say it's okay, it's pretty good. It's a little bit stiff because obviously this is the JCW. This is the most aggressive, sporty one, but the visibility is good, the ride is good, fuel economy is all right, the sound is pretty good. I think this thing looks pretty cool. It's hard to ding this thing really anywhere. And again, when you start to compare it against things like, Mini's kind of that tweener, right? So it's not gonna compete against like Toyotas and Hondas and stuff. It's better than that, but it's, I guess, not quite on the BMW, Mercedes, Audi level. But for a Q3, an X1, a GLA, GLB, I don't know, I really like this. The leather is like it's genuine luxury car stuff in here. And you're getting it for less money than you would in the BMW. So you're getting like really nice stuff for thousands of dollars less. And it's hard not to see that as a value. And especially when it's wrapped in all of this mininess, it's hard not to love that. So I think I'm gonna keep rambling, saying nice things about it. So I think at this point, we send it back outside for final thoughts. So that is the best and the rest of the new Mini Countryman JCW, or John Cooper Works. And I have to say, for what you're getting here, at least compared to the BMW equivalents, this thing is such a better value, at least if you're looking for a little bit more personality. This thing has buckets of character, it's super fun to drive, it's really maximized its rear seat and cargo space, it feels plenty big and practical. Really doesn't miss much. So thanks again to our friends at Mini of Milwaukee for letting us have a go in your new JCW. We'll see you in the next one.